What is up, everybody? This is the Wild Nutrition Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Heskett, and this is episode 33. Today, I'm interviewing Adam Hicks. He's an online coach out of Birmingham, Alabama. He loves the steel mace and the steel clubs and traditional strength training routine. So he's an interesting guy, awesome coach. We met about 2 years ago through a mentorship. And he specializes in healing chronic pain through the shoulders and spine and building sustainable strength. So he has an awesome perspective on strength training and nutrition that I think you're going to love. In addition to that, we talk about nutrition and his perspectives on why health is declining in the modern Western world. So without further ado, here's Adam. What's up, Adam? How's it going?
What's up, man? Good to see you.
Good to see you. All right. So, Adam, you're a coach. We met through a mentorship. Crazy to say this, but it's been at least a year and a half, if getting close to 2 years now. Now you have an amazing coaching business. And what attracted me to you, like I wanted to follow you, and I think you're cool as fuck. You do the Steel Mace Steel Club, which is kind of an unconventional fitness thing. And I got into that kind of stuff, I don't know, 5 years ago. And my buddy up here, he really got me into it. But then I saw you do it. And that's why I was like, cool, let's have this guy on the podcast, because I've had one other Steel Mace episode, but I want to get the word out there about Steel Mace and Steel Clubs even more.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Glad to be here and glad to talk about it.
Awesome. So tell us a little bit about like your coaching business and kind of what you do with clients, because you are the shoulder coach. So I'm going to assume you help people a lot with their shoulders.
Yeah. That is, that's a niche I found myself falling into that I help people with real well. I mean, man, when I first started my coaching business, it was kind of like, my general holistic approach to strength training with kettlebells, steel clubs, maces and whatnot. I started taking on some people who had some spine issues, back pain, and especially shoulder pain, and more and more of those people started coming. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know. But then like, I would just do my best. And I saw these people were like good as new, right? Like these people would be dealing with chronic pain and like, I got them to be pain-free. And I was like, oh, wow, I have something here. And really, when I first started my online coaching business, like, the first general concepts were I was fascinated with these ancient Eastern strength training methods that involved rotational shoulder movement. And I was like, what the fuck is this? And like I was fascinated by it and learned a lot more about it. Got certified in like arts like Persian yoga, steel mace, and things like that. And when I really looked into the physiology of how it works, it really, like, I learned so much about like the shoulder and how it's supposed to move and how a lot of people don't move like that nowadays. So I started applying it to my clients and I saw amazing results. And I was like, wait a second, like shoulder development is my thing. I really am passionate about it ever since, like, I actually forgot I was passionate about it. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like when I started my program, I was like, no, I need to be, and when I started my business, I was like, I need to be general, you know what I mean? Help people lose weight. And but then I kind of returned back to that niche and I was like, no, I should stay with that niche. And ever since then, man, it really blew up. And a lot of people come to me specifically for that issue. And I've seen a load of success with helping people get out of chronic pain and also get them the functionally strongest that they've ever been. So that's been a wild ride for sure.
I mean, that's how I got into using the steel mace. That was my gateway drug, was traditional lifter, like bodybuilding, powerlifting. That was my thing. And my shoulders were so stiff, like all the time, they were just like locked up and they just felt really uncomfortable, and tried all the things. And finally, like my boss, like bought the steel mace randomly, never used it, sat in the corner of the gym, like collecting dust. And I saw someone using it. I'm like, you know what? I'll try that. I did. My shoulders unlocked. I was like, holy shit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow. Like this like completely changed my shoulders. My shoulders have never been healthier since incorporating steel mace and steel club work. And it's definitely one of those tools where if you use it and you use it correctly, it can be a total game changer in your strength and how your body moves.
Game changer, man. I'm telling you. I mean, it's a lot of times when people come to me and get on the phone with me, tell me about their shoulder problems. It's like sometimes I'm like, man, like regardless of what you're dealing with, just like get started on the mace, and then like all the problems go away. Like, it kind of
Yes.
it really helps move the spine with the shoulders, right? That's how we're biomechanically supposed to be moving, right?
Yep.
So yeah, man, it's worked wonders.
I find the other thing I found was so I usually work with women 35 and up, and they're generally moms, they need to lose weight. But like you hand someone like a mom a steel mace, and for like 5 minutes out of their day, now they're like a Viking warrior and they feel like
It's very empowering.
yes. And so now all of a sudden they dread going to the gym, but now the gym's fun. And that's the other thing
Yeah.
people don't realize is these tools are super, super fun when you get good at them. When you first start, you're like, what the fuck is this thing? Why is it heavy on one end?
Isn't that so cool, man? Yeah, the same thing. Same thing with a lot of my clients too. It's like, it's not just like a goofy thing. Like the origins of the mace and the clubs date back thousands of years. In fact, like with really the wooden club started more like the Indo-Iranian area. Was probably like the first tool used for strength conditioning. Like, and you can't even really put a date on when it was started being used because we literally evolved with clubs as early human beings.
Right.
And the thing is that specifically it became an organized practice with the art of Palavani, or otherwise known as Persian yoga. And I got certified in Persian yoga, and that kind of started my whole pursuit on that. And that is an ancient warrior practice of the ancient Persians, right? It was literally made to condition their arms and their shoulders and their core for swinging a sword thousands of times in battle, right? It was also made for like like the Persians, I believe this is correct history. The Persians really started doing this when the Mongolian Empire took over Persia, and they didn't allow any of the men to gather in groups. They didn't allow any of the men to have weapons. So what a lot of these men did is they went down into these caves in secrecy, and they trained together using clubs, calisthenics, push-ups, you name it, and ultimately to overthrow the Mongols with their bare hands, right? And that's fucking awesome. That's awesome. And same origins with the steel mace, right? Like these are ancient tools that were originally used to strengthen warriors, to make them like just ruthless. But the holistic benefits of the joints, of the spine, are amazing as well, right? Because these are cultures obviously in like India and Persia where like their approach to physical culture was holistic, just like yoga.
Yep.
So I mean, this is actually considered like is based out of a form of yoga. Like I said, like I learned Persian yoga. So yeah, dude, it's so empowering when you learn about that, and then when you hold it and you like feel like you're just like all of a sudden like it empowers people.
Yes.
So it's just far more than strength training. Like they actually now are like feel like badasses, and that goes into everything else they do in their life. It's so cool.
Yeah, that 5 minutes of confidence and fun that they had, all of a sudden that starts spilling over into other areas, and that's where it's like, holy shit! Yeah. Now this person is like super confident in their relationships, at work, and it spills over into other areas of their life, and you can kind of start tracing things back to like, I picked up a 10-pound steel mace or a 7-pound steel mace or a 5-pound club, and that's where it started.
Yeah, and absolutely, man. That's awesome.
It's definitely fun. Now, I'm going to assume there's obviously kind of two worlds. There's a lot of meshing, but when it comes to steel, I'm a little bit more biased to steel mace than clubs. Are you more like the traditional versus obviously there's the whole flow community?
Right. Yeah. I get asked that question often, Yeah, I am a little bit more traditionalist, but what's funny? I got my start in steel mace by getting certified in steel mace flow.
Nice.
Yeah. So like if you've ever seen like Leo Savage on Instagram.
Yes. Oh yeah. Very familiar.
The On It coach who does the interpretive dance. It was his program I got certified that started me on steel mace. And that's an interesting question of like my opinion on that, because it's very like complex. So I am a traditionalist in the sense that like I'm a strength coach, right? I if it doesn't get you stronger, then I consider it bullshit, right?
Okay.
However, with flow, who's to say that doesn't get you stronger? In fact, I used to have a flow project. It was called Dragon Flow Yoga,
Oh,
and
nice.
yeah, and like I appreciate Leo Savage's approach to steel mace flow, right? But like there's just something about that style that wasn't hitting me right. It wasn't the way I saw it, especially with my martial arts background and the way I approach the steel mace is the same way that like my father approached like training sword. That's something my dad is teaching. He's taught Tong Sudo
Okay.
for probably 50 years. And, ever since I was a kid, he'd be out in our backyard, like practicing and flowing with a sword. That was normal. Right. And it's funny because like my friends would come over and be like, hey, man, what the hell is your dad doing? um, and I apply that to the steel mace. It's almost like a movement meditation. And Dragon Flow Yoga was a thing I was doing there. That was a little bit more of an esoteric yoga approach to the steel mace, but it was steel mace flow. Um, it was just my style, right? So anyway, I respect anyone's style with the steel mace, right? I'm also a big fan of. Are you familiar with Greg Walsh from Wolf Brigade Gym?
Uh, does he own it? Does he own Wolf Brigade?
Yeah, he
Okay,
owns it.
yes. I'm like, I know the name Wolf Brigade. I don't remember the owner of it. Okay, yes, I am familiar
Mhm.
with him.
So I'm a huge Greg Walsh fan, and he's like one of the forefathers of Western mace lifting.
Okay.
He really brought it over to like the Western world, and he is very anti-flow, right? Like he is like I've seen them post about like people who are like dancing around with maces and how gimmicky it looks. I don't think it's gimmicky, but like part of me is kind of like that as well. It's just like, hey, like if we're doing strength training, we're doing strength training, right? We're not
Yes.
prancing around. However, like I said, I also am a person of self-expression. And actually recently I've gotten back into steel-based flow, more of my own style. That's something like I said, like Dragon Flow Yoga, that project that I was doing for a bit. I'm actually probably going to revive that and
Nice,
make it
dude.
like an online course or something like that. Yeah, I mean, man, my assistant coach as well. He is actually one of the main steel mace flow educators.
Okay.
Uh, yeah, so and he's great with that stuff. So, man, at the end of the day, I am not that person to say that there's a right and wrong way to express yourself. Absolutely not. You know what I mean? Especially, I have kids, right? If
Yep.
one of them, let's say they picked up some odd hobby, what if they started steel mace flow and started doing that? Am I going to shit on them for that? No. Like I support anything that they do. And I do believe that if anyone who enjoys doing that, heck yeah. So I have like a very complex.
It is.
Yeah, honestly,
Um,
man, at the end of the day, I just approach things in my way. And my way is what I feel called to do.
yeah. I think
So,
there's like different levels to it. So I prefer like the more traditional. I I learned a lot through I'm sure you know the name Rick Brown.
oh yeah.
Um, so learned a lot of the heavier swinging through him. But I really like using with clients like steel mace flow, where it's like, here's your flow of 3 or 4 movements. You're going to do 8 reps per side. Cool. And like traditional weight training, okay, you did with the 10 for a couple weeks. Now we're going to bump up to the 15. Then you can
Yeah.
keep moving up. That's where it's strength training. But
Hmm.
I also like it's great for like cardio or it's great for fun. Like we know we need to get steps in and have fun in our lives. Like that's where like that other flow gets in. Like you just want to do like 10 minutes of some bullshit. Like is it going to make you stronger? Probably not. Will it improve your cardio? Probably a little bit.
Yeah.
Are you going to be active? And we need more of that in our world. 100%. So go do that thing.
Right. Yeah. So it's like at the end of the day, does it help someone or not?
Yep.
You know? And I love how you apply progressive overload with that. That's one thing I was thinking of like when I see people doing steel mace flow, I'm like, there has to be some sort of organization if you're going to call this strength training.
Right.
Um, but that's why, like, like dragon flow yoga, when I was doing that, I'm thinking, like I said, I'm thinking about reviving that, making a course. And imagine if you did like a 12-week course where it's like these different patterns that I do and I have you do. And then at the end of the 12 weeks, it's like, okay, now we're going to step up to a 15 pound and you're going to start over again. Right. And then like progressively, what if people are doing like a 25-pound steel mace flow? That
Dude,
is
it's
hard.
brutal.
Right.
Yeah.
If you ever held like,
Brutal. Yes,
yeah,
I have.
like yeah, that archer's pose with a 25-pound mace, I don't even think I can really do it. I get like right here and
It is awful. Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that would be really cool to apply that with progressive overload,
Yep. Um, that's how I've always programmed it for people where you do that. But for the listeners, just so you know, like all when we're saying like 10 or 15, if that doesn't sound like much, if you don't know what a steel mace is, all the weight's on basically one end. So it's not 10 pounds throughout, it's 10 pounds on the end, then 15 pounds on the end, then 25 pounds on the
Yeah.
end.
The leverage of the tool is what makes it so much harder.
Yes.
You know what I
Yep.
mean? I feel like I can just like flip around a 10-pound dumbbell, right? A 10-pound mace, you hold that in your hand, and like most people struggle with that,
Yeah.
especially when you like hold it out, extend it out from the center of the body. Like, so it's the leverage that is being used. That's what makes a mace so much heavier.
Yes. Yeah.
Mhm.
And then when you go into clubs, I was first time I ever got my hands on clubs, it was a set of 15s, and I was using 15-pound mace forever. And then I grabbed a pair of 15s
Mhm.
on clubs. Wow, that was a world of hurt I never experienced.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah, it's funny. My Persian clubs, like the big, like the wooden ones,
Yeah.
my main ones that I work out with are 12 pounds each, and like
Okay.
that's actually considered relatively heavy for someone who is like new. But they're also like 2 feet long, so the
Right.
lever of those is like a lot different. But I mean, yeah, dude, that's like my heavy Persian clubs, like 22 pounds each, and they're freaking heavy. It's kind of funny. So the
Yeah.
the lever of these tools really makes it different.
It does. I find so I like to hunt a lot, and like getting close to hunting season, I use the steel clubs a ton because for archery, I find it really helps with the shoulder stability, especially
Oh,
using like two clubs. So like if I use two 15s or two 25s, that really helps with my shoulder endurance, my grip endurance, but also that stability of controlling that weight, especially if I have to hold that bow. Like this past year, I had to hold it for like a good minute at full draw. So if I can do that and practice that in the gym with
yeah,
clubs in those different positions, it makes
yeah.
me much better. But God, it's awful to do. It is
Oh yeah, man.
tough.
I have a compound bow myself. I'm trying to remind myself to train. Me and my brother want to go elk hunting in Colorado
Nice,
later
dude.
this fall. But dude, I totally know what you mean, and I've had bow hunters approach me as well for advice, and a few as my clients as well for the same reason. And also people who are like experiencing like imbalance in their shoulders because obviously one arm is extended, the other is drawing back.
Right.
So it's a good way of incorporating the mace and clubs to balance things out.
Yeah. Especially if you practice a lot because it's, if you're doing like even 10 arrows a day, but if it's 100 arrows a day or 50 arrows a day, like a lot of guys
Yeah.
do, everything's on one side. So natural, that sport is just unbalanced. Most
Yeah.
sports are, but definitely archery.
Yeah, yeah, but that's all good. It's just, and that's why we train is to like fix those imbalances and whatnot.
Yep.
So
All right,
yeah,
let's switch gears a little bit. I know you wanted to talk about nutrition. So
yeah,
I see the stuff you share, and I agree with a lot of it that you share. So this will be some rabbit holes. We'll probably run out of time. But where do you want to start with talking about nutrition?
well, that's a good point. I don't know where to start. However, I well, just recently I was having a conversation with my fiance, and like, um she was studying to be a nutritionist as well. She's
Okay.
kind of taking a pause on it, but like, dude, she's taught me a lot about nutrition. And we are really big into I guess I guess the word is carnivore nowadays.
Hmm.
Right. But like we eat a lot of like red meat, deer meat, um, um, like raw milk,
Okay.
fruit,
Yep.
rice, like stuff that's like good for you, like filtered water. Like we're really big on that. And yeah, I don't know, man. I had a conversation with my fiance the other day. We had the kids out at a local park playing on a playground. And there was this one kid who is like 6 years, he looked like 6 or 7 years old. Um, and and we have a 6 year old about to turn seven. And we're not here being judgmental parents or anything, but this kid was obese. He had to be like, dude, he had to be like 200 pounds. I'm not kidding. Like, he was massively obese.
Oh,
This kid
wow.
was like, he was like kind of jogging around the playground and like breathing heavy and couldn't even move. And I was just like appalled because it's like, dude, how as a parent do you look at your obese child and just be like, oh, what? He's just like that. It's like that is completely your fault, And look, again, I'm not judging. As parents, like I get it when we're always trying to do the best we can. But like at some point, if my child was like obese, I'd be like, I need to learn about nutrition. I need to figure something out because that is a slow death, you know it blows me
Yes.
away. And I think, and not only that, but the kid was playing with what I believe was his sister.
Okay.
um this might not be the rabbit hole we want to go down, but like his sister also was like double masked and like had gloves on. And I was just like, okay, they don't have the right idea with health. Like these, whoever their parents are, God bless them. I'm not judging, but like I'm just like, dude, this world, what is going on? And that's just something we've been realizing recently. Again, not being judgmental parents, but like now that we have kids being involved in like sports and stuff like that, we have them and we see them around all these other kids. And my 6 year old, they'll, when he goes to soccer practice, I swear almost every kid on the team is like a spaz. They're super uncoordinated. These kids are just like barking animal noises at each other. I'm like, just normal kid stuff. And then you look at our 6 year old and he looks like a very just like calm, normal kid. I'm not like he's like growing up too fast, but he's just like he's there. He's
Yeah.
present. His nervous system is regulated. He's healthy. And you see these kids who are like either obese or they're like very skinny and they're all cracked out and like don't seem like they're developing well. And like from what we have learned a lot about what is in the normal American diet, it really just stems from that. I mean, we see these kids like eating Twinkies. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like I'm like, oh my god, that's like poison. It's slow poison. I'm not saying I eat perfectly either, right? But like learning what I've learned about this stuff, God, man, like again, like I'm not trying to get on a tangent. But my mom had breast cancer. My mom eat like, like she doesn't eat bad. Like they eat good, but like, a lot of the stuff, like when I open the refrigerator, it's like a lot of food dyes and seed oils and stuff like that. And God bless them. I love my parents. They actually fed me pretty well growing up. But like, it's just, a lot of people just don't understand that, like, that's not natural food you're eating. And there's literally multiple studies on how this stuff causes ADHD, right? Like me and my brothers and sisters were diagnosed ADHD since we were 6.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So like that's something that's important to me. Like I feel like that was kind of a misdiagnosis, right? I was
Yeah.
fed pills all my life. But anyway, it just really like people are suffering and they're just like, well, that's just how it is. Disease, obesity, it just pops out of nowhere. That's what being a human is. It's like, no, it doesn't. You're eating garbage,
Yeah.
and no, but the thing is, um, here's a good story for you, man. Sorry, I don't
You're,
mean to be talking this
no,
whole
keep
time,
going.
but dude, this really blew me away and like really hitting deep. But I'm friends with this girl who she's been suffering for about like 8 years. She's been dealing with this rare autoimmune disorder where literally her body is attacking itself. So like her existence is just pure agony. Like she spends most of her days in a hospital bed. Moving is agonizing. Just existing is agonizing. And I've been keeping up with her social media posts, and she's been living this way for like 8 years. And like every
Jesus.
single day, she like kind of weighs the balance of should I just kill myself or what? You know what I mean? So, um, anyway, I've reached out to her recently because I've been learning a lot about like the carnivore diet and like elimination diets that are
Mhm.
based on basically like red meat, water, and salt.
Yep.
And how it's like changed people's lives, especially with autoimmune disease. And I was like, so I reached out to her. I was like, hey, have you heard of this? Like, can I talk to you more about like what your new looks like, if you don't mind? Just trying to help, you know, like I'm literally not trying to have her sign up for anything, pay me money, nothing, right?
Right.
And she's like, oh, she's like, my nutrition's garbage. Oh, it's just garbage. And I'm like, what do you mean it's just garbage? You're suffering. And like she blew it off. She did not want to talk details. And she's like, oh no, trust me. Trust me. I used to calorie count and do hit cardio twice a day. Like, trust me. And I'm like, that's not what I'm talking about at all.
Which is
That like,
hit cardio twice a day is awful for you.
yeah, oh my God. Yeah. I'm like,
Terrible.
poor girl. Yeah, but you know how those conversations go
Yep.
with people
Oh
when you
yeah.
ask them about their nutrition and their lifestyle, and they try to like beat around the bush and avoid confrontation about that because like people's nutrition is pretty close to them. But basically, this girl was like suffering. I'm pretty sure I'm almost willing to bet money that if she just went to what's called a lion diet, where it's just
Mhm.
only red meat, water, and salt, and she did that for 6 months, I would almost bet money that she'd be good as new. Isn't that sad?
It's the lion diet, the carnivore diet. There's a lot of people, like you said, who have had success. I don't want to say reversing, but at least putting their autoimmune disease into remission. Now, I'm not
Yeah.
saying to any listener to go and do this. Obviously, talk to your doctor first, legally.
Right. And
But
I do want to clarify that like I am not like a certified dietitian or anything. So yeah, this just
but
take this all for a grain of salt.
when you
Yeah.
look into um like allergies, like food allergies, sensitivities, where the immune system has a response, it's very rarely going to be meat. It's almost always something with plants or inflammatory foods like omega 6 is found in all of our seed oils and processed foods.
Yeah. It's
Too much
actually never
sugar.
it's actually never meat.
Yeah.
According to Dr. Who's it, Sean Baker, the carnivore
Sean,
that
there's Sean Baker and there's who's carnivore MD.
Paul Saladino.
Yes, Paul
Uh
Saladino.
according to Sean Baker, who he like only eats red meat. He's been doing it
Yes.
for years. That's kind of crazy. But he says that like he does elimination diets where it's only red meat because based on what he has studied, red meat is the only food that has zero cases of allergies. So I don't, you know, that's just what
Yeah.
he said.
Yeah.
But like that's why it's like a good elimination diet just to start there, and it's highly nutritious. Um, but yeah, like
Yeah.
apparently that's the only food you can find that like the human body. There's no cases of allergies
Yeah.
with red meat. Yeah.
There I've used it with helped a couple people through where I'd never recommend it long term, but as a tool, like elimination diet, exactly what you said. Like it's a tool in a tool belt to let's figure out what's going on and get you healthy,
Mhm.
get your immune system back to normal, heal your gut, and then we can start introducing these other foods because a lot of people won't stick with that long term. Some
Mhm.
people will, but a lot won't. So, okay, as a coach, like I know, like, okay, even if this was the best thing for them, it's probably not realistic that they're never going to have pasta again. So let's figure out what other
Right.
foods that they can eat. But it is a very powerful tool of my gut's bullshit. I have autoimmune disease. What should I do? Maybe start with the carnivore diet and then slowly add other
Yeah.
foods in.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just as an elimination. And I mean, man, and yeah, like as a coach too, like keep in mind, like I have vegetarians that are clients in it. You know what I mean? Like I don't teach people, hey, eat like me. I want people to learn of what is optimal for the human diet and what I suggest. But ultimately, my goal as a coach is to make sure that they are attaining their goals through their own lifestyle.
Right.
Right. So yeah, I know what you mean by that. But yeah, man, it's crazy. It's really crazy. Like ever since I've learned more and more about nutrition, I look around in the world around me and I'm like, oh my God, everything makes sense. Like I said, it just seems like, I've had a lot of people in my family who like had cancer, friends who have had cancer and like had like terrible diseases. And then like after learning what I've learned, I'm like, oh my God, like people, like I said, people really do think that like, oh, I just have this disease now. It's
Yeah.
just obesity. It just comes out of nowhere. I'm just getting old. That's just part of being human. Oh, I got cancer now. It's like, dude, no, that doesn't just appear. Like it comes from the food that you're intaking. And there's so many studies that show that, but no one's willing to look at that because people really attach their comfort to the way that they eat. And that
Mhm.
sucks.
Yeah. Um, your food like even if you have the genetics for like the predisposition for cancer, like food and your lifestyle are what actually like turn your genes on and off. So
Yeah.
unless you activate those genes, which a lot of times comes from unhealthy lifestyle and too much inflammation in the body, when
Mm-hmm.
you activate those genes, then that's where it's like, okay, that risk goes up. But if you never activate the gene, you're probably, or your risk goes way down. You're probably never
Yeah.
going to develop it or very low risk. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. Your genes are a loaded gun, but your lifestyle is what pulls the trigger, right?
Exactly. Yep. That's the
Um,
phrase.
that is the phrase that I've heard. Yeah, dude, it's crazy. Even like with obesity, right? I mean, look, me and you, we both help people lose weight, right?
Yep.
I have, I specialize in strength training, but I have clients who mainly just need to lose weight.
Yep.
You know how that's a sensitive topic, of course, right? And like very understanding of that because these are people's bodies and they don't feel comfortable in them, right? But man, I remember one time, like a year ago, I made a talking video just talking about, hey, just to be clear, obesity is not genetic, right? Not significantly. Like I really like I've been seeing like these posts on social media go around where like obesity apparently is just getting so normalized.
It's pretty
And
sad to see, but
yeah, so
yes.
I felt the need as a health professional, I felt the need to make a post being like, hey, let's clarify this. I study this. And nothing is supposed to be normal about obesity. It's not just a random thing that happens. It's because of our terrible lifestyle choices. Excuse me,
What
not
were the
terrible.
comments on
Like,
that video?
oh my God. I was like, oh, dude. Yeah, that was, oh God, it stressed me out, man. That's also where I learned to kind of like roll with the punches. If like you're going to be on a platform and say something that might be controversial, then you might need to just go with it.
Yep.
But yeah, I've had people like obesity is genetic, and it's like yes, like about 10%. You know what I mean?
Yeah. About
Like
10%.
yeah, there's some people who yeah, I know people who like they'll look at a potato and gain 5 pounds. Right? Some people just like naturally gain weight easier than others. Some people have ancestors that were like lived in very cold climates, so they naturally are able to put on body fat a little bit more. Sure, that counts like 10% of genetics, right? But ultimately, your lifestyle choices, right? It's what you eat and your activity levels. That is what determines obesity. And people that think just obesity is cute, obesity is beautiful, it's like, no, obesity is a slow death.
Yeah. It,
Uh,
your risk for all cause mortality goes up. But not only that, like all your joints take a beating. So not only are you putting yourself at risk for all these terrible diseases, you're also just not going to be comfortable moving around day to day.
yeah. Yeah, man. Like, why allow that to hold you back from living such a beautiful life? Dude, a bird just shit in my smoothie. All
You're
right.
just gonna have to drink right out of the blender.
I was like, wait a second, it's not raining. Anyway, um, yeah, see, that's the thing. And like, I see obese people. I'm like, God, I want to help like free them
Yep.
because it's going to hold you back from really experiencing life. Um, I can't imagine like walking around with like this excess 50, 60 pounds in my body and like not being able to move. That has to be so uncomfortable. So like I have a big heart for helping people get out of that, you know? And anyone can. Like that's another thing too. Some people believe that they're just like built that way. It's like no, you can if you have kind of going back to what I was saying, it's like it's not incredibly genetic, right? It's like, yeah, sure, some people have a little bit more body fat than others. But if you are like over 30, 40% body fat, like that's on you. That is your lifestyle. And it's not to shame anyone. It's like, but hey, don't like act like that's not your responsibility. You know?
Right. It might not be your fault, but it's your responsibility to do something
Your
about it.
responsibility. If it's anything that we learn, oh, I don't want to go on this rabbit hole, but if it's anything we learned since the pandemic is as like our health is our responsibility, not the government's, not the neighbors, not anyone that interacts with you who's not wearing a mask. Like it is your responsibility. And there's a lot of people that
100%.
we've seen that like refuse to take responsibility into their own hands with their own health. But again, I'm not sure if that's the rabbit hole to go down, you know.
But I mean, it is the truth. And, you know, what you said earlier, like some people naturally like put on body fat a little bit, but those are going to be the people where they might be what used to be back in like the 70s or 80s, where like a little like chunky. I'm going to use air quotes for those just listening and not watching. They're just you just carry a little bit more like extra body fat, but it's not in this very unhealthy range. Like there's a difference between there's reason it's overweight and then it goes to obesity.
Yeah.
Obesity is just bad. Like that's a medical condition. Being slightly overweight, just because that's you genetically, you can be completely healthy. Like your joints are fine, your blood works fine, you have amazing energy, you can do all the things you want, you feel fantastic. Like that's perfect. Like there's no reason you have to have a six-pack, but that's not obesity.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what, yeah. And there's a lot of people like, you know, when I've like said something like that on my social media, there's a lot of people that are like, oh, that hurts my feelings, you know? And I'm like, oh, Jesus, man, like it's really wild, man. And if we look at, you know, Western civilization, like you said, back in the 70s and 80s, like most people were pretty lean.
Yep.
Right. It was most people, but when you go to like a beach or something like nowadays, it's like most people are overweight. Right. And we're not here to analyze people's bodies or anything like that. But at what point are we going to admit that we have a disease going through our society and that is not okay for people to just accept it?
Right. Well, are we at 30 or 40% obesity rate in adults now?
I think it's 40%. Actually. It's actually I want to say like it's encroaching upon 50. Right? Damn. Yeah, and we have people trying to like normalize that as beautiful, which, you know, all people are beautiful in their own way. Right. All bodies are beautiful in their own way, but like there's nothing beautiful about not taking care of yourself. Right. Exactly. And like just trying to convince society to accept that is a disease in society, you know, and that's something we really have to, as health professionals, as me and you, that's something that like we have to address with people. And I'm happy that the people that come to me, you know, they trust me with helping them on their weight loss journey. You know what I mean? Because like I have a heart for those people to help them. Right. But the people who don't want to take responsibility, it's like, all right, you're part of the problem. But
yeah, it's a strain on the health system and lots of other areas in our society. But I think a lot of it stems from like a complete disconnect from our food. Like you can just go to the grocery store, buy pre-cut meat. You can just buy you don't have to grow anything. Like there's a complete disconnect from our food system, and people are just like, food's just this inconvenience. Like you just have to eat, and they'd rather just like get a dopamine hit every time with something super sugary, salty, crunchy, whatever bullshit that is, rather than
also, and it's also part of like our urgent society, right? Yes. I remember like my last job before I really went off starting my own business, I was running everywhere. I was all over the place. I was always in a rush, always running late. Chick-fil-A, Chipotle, Chick-fil-A, Chipotle. Like, and that was just like the healthiest options. And like, and yeah, well, that's what it is, just convenience. Cause like we got to get somewhere, you know what I mean? And,
Yeah.
yeah, it's part of our society, man. It's an unhealthy part of our society.
That's very unhealthy where like I'm trying to help clients and they're like, yeah, we're traveling for work and this is the options. I'm like, Jesus Christ, like why are we
Yeah.
like still doing these bullshitty like food lunch options for people? Like we know so much more now that why can't we just have healthier options at least available? Like maybe not everyone picks it, but you have that at least option because if your workers are healthy, then they're going to be have more energy, then they're
Yeah.
going to work harder and everybody makes more money. Isn't that what we want? Like as a
Yeah.
business? I I mean, that's what I would think you want. You only want to the cheap bullshitty food, but that's also what most people want to eat.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I've had those clients too where they're like, yeah, I'm working, I'm traveling, I'm in the middle of nowhere, and the only thing to eat is Burger King. I'm like, oh my God, like how do the people in that town, like,
Yeah.
how do they live, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to navigate with all that. But man, that's part of the reason why like I'm slowly trying to uh sever myself from that system. Um like I killed my first deer back in January, right? Like
Oh,
so I'm getting
congrats, dude.
yeah, it's super fun. And like such a beautiful thing that I felt like a part of nature and a part of
Mhm.
like the circle of life because like that is a necessary thing of getting back to nature and like supplying your own food. And dude, we that one doe that I killed like filled up our freezer. And I
Yeah.
was just like, why did I not start doing this earlier?
And now you're
So
hooked.
I like, yeah. Now um, I want to rely on myself to give good nutrition to my family so they can grow up big and strong. Um, like I was saying, kind of seeing like these other little kids that my boys are starting to hang out with. It's like, dude, why do my kids seem like so much different than them? Not in like better, right? But like where my boys seem like just like regular healthy boys. Um, but they're present. Their nervous system is nice and calm. And then you got these kids who are skinny and they're like cracked out and they're like making animal noises like "Mah!" Like and they're like the same age as my 6-year-old. I was like, what? And then you see them like eating a Kit Kat before their soccer game. It's like,
Yep.
oh my God, dude. Um, so like
We
it's so important as a development of human beings to understand nutrition. Um, and just most people don't. Most people don't
no,
understand.
we had that with so my daughter, she eats the same food we eat. Like she devours venison. She eat like the other night, she didn't even want we had venison burgers, we had a bunch of veggies, and then sweet potato fries. She didn't even touch the sweet potato fries. She like devoured her veggies and ate all the venison. It was like
Awesome.
awesome. Like you
Yeah.
need to get more calories in you, kid. But and then we do kind of like you guys, the raw milk. So
Mhm.
she gets raw milk all the time. But we had an experience where for her first birthday, we decided to do the smash cake thing. And
Yeah.
my wife usually makes the cake and makes the icing like her one of her hobbies is baking. Icing didn't turn out, so we got the store bought bullshitty icing, and she tried to find the best one. By the way, if you ever look at the food label of icing, it's awful,
Terrible.
terrible. So we let her do the smash cake thing. She ate too much, and we had to travel up from Pennsylvania, southeastern Pennsylvania, all the way up to Maine. Oh my God, she was a little terrorist the next day.
Yeah.
It was like, that's why so many kids have issues. Like they eat all this
Yeah.
sugar. And that's what happened that day. She ate all this food and wasn't really hungry the rest of the day other than for
Yeah.
milk. It's like, oh, and then she was uncomfortable because the next day, like her system was completely off. And like,
Yeah.
oh, this makes
The food dyes
sense.
too, man. Like the food dyes that are in that stuff. Like literally these food dyes are literally banned in the UK because they have been proven to show like hyperactivity in kids, right? But then like for me growing up, I'm drinking like all like their blue Gatorades and stuff like that, and like no wonder I was diagnosed ADHD, right? God bless my parents, they didn't know any better,
Right.
right? But like so that stuff is, I mean, still to this day, like um so like someone will hand my kid like a drink or something like that, or like someone's house, and I'm like, dude, this drink is like, it looks like it glows in the dark. Like this can't be good for you.
Right.
And that's another point too. Having kids will really teach you and simplify everything you need to know about what's natural nutrition for us. Kids want meat and sweets, right? They're
Yep.
like, I like no matter who you are, pretty much any kid is going to be like really wants to have some sort of meat and fruit.
Yeah.
Just give them meat and fruit.
100%.
Like you don't have to like force them to eat broccoli. Like the broccoli is like the nutritional value of cardboard, like meat and fruit. Kids naturally want that, right? For the most part. And that tells us a lot about like our bodies know what they need. Whenever we crave something savory, it's actually our body's craving for amino acids and protein and fat, right? When
Mhm.
we crave, and salt as well. Salt
Salt.
is an
Yeah.
essential nutrient, right? When we crave something sweet, it's our body saying, "Hey, I want fruit," right? It's not your body saying like, "Hey, I want candy," right? Hundreds of thousands of years, like our ancestors would roam the world, and if they came up to an island paradise with fruit everywhere, that was heaven for them. You
Yeah.
know,
Fruit and honey.
and that's still in our biology.
Yeah. Yeah. My daughter destroys fruit. Like it
Yeah.
is, like you said, don't have to force it. And we don't eliminate. So to the listeners, like, oh my God, do I have to eliminate everything? Like one issue I find a lot of people have with kids is they give them adult portion sizes. Like
Yeah.
they're going to go out in the world and they're going to have to navigate like soda and sweets and all these other things. So you want to teach them to have portion control. So we'll still give our daughter like ice cream and we'll still do all the like have all the fun foods. We don't
Right.
do a ton of stuff with dyes, but occasionally something has some dye in it. But it's like she gets the portion that's right for a 2-year-old, not
Mm.
what's for like a grown ass man, like not the portion
Right.
size
Yeah,
I'm
I mean,
eating.
that's a good point. That's something we're really big on as well. Is like, we don't tell our kids like, "Hey, finish your plate."
Yeah,
We say, "Hey, finish when you're done." Are you like when they're done eating? And it's like half a plate still there. It's like, okay, are you full? You're like, yeah. I'm like, okay, that's cool.
it's really
Because
easy.
I want them to learn how to listen to their bodies and know when it's full and not
Yes.
force feed. That is something, again, God bless my parents. They did the best they did and they did a great job feeding me actually. Um, but just something about that generation, I think it really came from like, the Great Depression era and whatnot. It's
Yeah.
like if you have food, you better freaking eat it
Yeah.
because we don't know when your next meal is. And they were kind of raised with their parents thinking that as well and brought it on to us. But now, it's really important to start from little kids, just like tell them to stop eating when they're full, and that's okay,
Yeah.
right?
We do the same thing with our daughter because my wife has that issue of like, still to this day, she struggles. If I plate her up and put a little too much on there, she is going to eat all of it, even though she knows it's too much food for her. She's going to
Mm-hmm.
finish her plate. So we do the same thing with our daughter, where it's like she'll just eat, and then when she's done, we are trying to teach her sign language, so it's like all done with the hands. But it's also easy to know when they're about to go through a growth spurt. And I don't think everyone knows that with like nutrition. Like a lot of people don't know nutrition. Like when a kid goes through a growth spurt, like all of a sudden they're going to devour everything, and she'll eat
Mm-hmm.
almost as much as I do some nights when she's
Yeah.
about to hit a growth spurt. It's like, we can't feed this kid enough. And then it's like 2 weeks later, she barely eats anything. Like right now, she's like hardly eating. Like, it's like, what happened? Or it's like, oh, she's not growing right now. Cool. And then next thing you know, it's like, oh my God, we can't give her enough food.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been there with the boys for sure, man. Yeah, it's just ultimately teaching your kids to listen to their body and like if they feel a certain way, validate it, right? Be like, oh, okay, you're full, gotcha, cool. You know what I mean? Or like, outside of nutrition, even if they like, skin a knee and they start crying and come hug you, be like, oh yeah, I know that really hurt. You know what I mean? I'm not going to tell them to be like, oh, get over it. It's not that
Yeah.
bad. You really want to validate the way your children feel because their body is communicating with them. And I see so many grown adults, I'd say most grown adults, don't even know what their body is telling them. They're so disassociated from this meat suit that we wear, that they don't pay attention to the fact that, like, hey, every time you eat Chipotle, you would like it like destroys your stomach. You know what I mean? Probably because you shouldn't be eating it, right? I'm not
Yeah.
knocking Chipotle. Shoot, I'll eat Chipotle every now and then, but it tears my stomach up.
Yep.
And like it probably from the rice bran oil that they cook that in, which is a highly processed seed oil, right? Um, so it's just I tell people that all the time, my clients especially, like, hey, listen to your body. Does this feel good? Does it not? Right? Does it taste good? Does it not? Right? Your taste buds are trying to tell you a lot too, but obviously with food industry using like sugar and processed stuff to like hijack our dopamine receptors, it gets confusing with listening to your taste buds. Right. Like I said, like if you're craving something sweet and eat a bowl of berries, your body's not saying, hey, give me sugar, unless it's
Yeah.
been eating sugar and it's like, addicted.
Have you had the
Um,
experience with a client where they've gone off of like a lot of processed foods and they're eating mostly like meat and fruit and veggies and stuff, and then they go back and they try something like soda or something, and they're like, "What the hell was I eating?"
yeah, yeah, seriously. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, I've personally had that experience because growing up, I was always an active kid. If anything, I was kind of skinny, just like super active, and drinking Coke and stuff like that was just never a concern, right?
Right.
I was drinking Coke and Dr. Pepper all the time. And then once I really got involved in sports, I was, started to learn it's not good for you. So I'm like, yeah, I shouldn't drink that. Um, and it's funny because like now, if I go back to drinking a Coke, I'm like, oh, what is this? It's disgusting. Like how was I used to doing this all the time? But for people who are, that's like normal for them. So, this is not healthy. Yeah.
Yeah. It
So
totally hijacks your taste buds, and then it desensitizes them to all the other food. The nice thing is your taste buds like turn over like every, I think it's 2 or 3 weeks. So it's like you can get that taste back, like resensitize them to like
yeah,
normal food, but it does take a few weeks of someone being committed to that.
yeah. Well, I have a question for you. What's
Yeah.
your opinion on alcohol?
So I love a good cocktail, but I did do a thing of the caffeine alcohol trap. So people rely on alcohol in our society way too much
That was a
for
great
stress
video, by
management.
the way.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I made it because I was in that for a long time.
I was in that for a long time too, man. Up until recently, like dude, like last summer, I was having panic attacks because I was
Oh
getting this
shit.
business off the ground, and I was like drinking a bang. I was playing. I had an opportunity to play professional rugby in Atlanta, which is like two and a
Oh,
half hours
nice.
away. So I was back and forth to Atlanta. I would
Jeez.
drink like another bang in the afternoon. That's like 800 milligrams of caffeine. Like running my ass off. The only way I could calm down is like drink 5 beers in the evening. You know what I mean? And like,
Yep.
dude, it like I work from home. My kids are homeschooled. Like I'm snapping at them, dude. Oh my god, I literally was having panic attacks. So yeah, but go ahead.
Yeah. So the occasional drink is okay, but our society has normalized it so much. Like
Mm-hmm.
normal thing to do. And I've never had like a normal job, but my buddy's big into steel mace. He has all the on it certs and everything. He worked in Australia for a long time with his family. And after the business day, the normal thing to do was at 5 p.m. you go to the bar. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
okay. And then you go get like a couple pints. Like that's what you did every day. Like,
Yeah.
how much alcohol is that? And so that just fucks up your sleep because we know alcohol stop like the more you, especially when you have more than like a couple drinks, but essentially shuts off your REM sleep. So you never get deep sleep. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a toxin. It's not good for you. It's going to lower your inhibition. So nutritionally, you're going to get the munchies. It's not necessarily the calories from the cocktail, but it's the pizza you order afterwards or the late night tacos from the taco truck. Like
Right.
that's where
Yeah,
it comes
man.
in.
That's dude. Alcohol is a tough one for me. Just because like all through my 20s, like I play rugby.
Yeah.
And like that culture is a big drinking culture. I was a musician when I was like in my early 20s too, and like I played in a band and everything, and that is also a drinking culture. So throughout my 20s, it was just something that we always did.
Yeah.
right? And I never really had like a problem with it. But even, dude, now as a 31-year-old, most nights I drink like 5 beers. I might drink a bottle of wine. You know what I mean? Like, it's like I established such a habit with it. I'm trying to pull myself out of. But yeah, it's like not good. And one of the first things I do is I bring my awareness to like, how does my body feel the next
Yep.
day? There is a big difference. If you go like 3 days without drinking alcohol, which alcohol stays in your system about 3 days, there you wake up in the morning like refreshed. Like I'm
Yes.
like birds chirping and shit. Like it's like you feel like, oh, like a lot different.
Yes.
Um, and it's just like the more I bring my awareness to what alcohol actually does to the body, like that was just I always knew alcohol wasn't that good, but I was like, whatever, I have Scotch Irish heritage. Come on, you know what I mean? Like I'm used to it. And like uh but like now that I really pay attention to my health and I help other people with their health, I've been looking into alcohol and I'm like, there's really no redeeming qualities here aside from like, good times with good friends and family. Right. So
That's it.
so yeah, that's what I want it to be. But like, dude, I feel like there's always an event to go to. There's beer there. You know what I mean? There's always like someone to go see. Oh, we're gonna go to a bar. We're gonna go to a brewery. You know what I mean? Like, um, so like I have no judgment with people like that, but like it's just like you can't escape it.
It's
You know?
everywhere, and it
God,
makes it
yeah,
very difficult. But once you bring, so I know, like for myself, like it's really difficult for me just to have one drink.
yeah,
So just going into like, if I'm going to drink, I know it's going to be two. I
yeah.
just know it's going to be very difficult. If I say I'm just going to have one, I'm going to end up with three. If I go in saying it's going to be two, I can stop at two because told
Mhm.
myself it's going to be that. But like you said, there's always an event. There's always a business thing. There's always something. And
Yeah.
one drink actually isn't terrible, especially if it's not super strong. Like if you get a low alcohol beer or you get like an actual serving of wine, it's not too bad on the body. But it's when it's 3 glasses of wine where you start to get like once you start to hit that buzz, like
Hmm.
where we all want to get to,
Of course.
we all want to feel that.
Yeah.
It's the 2 glasses of scotch or whiskey, the 3 glasses of wine, the 3 IPAs. Like, okay,
Yeah.
now you're like 500 calories deep into this, and like you're buzzed. Like that's where the issue is. That's where your health starts to decline.
Right. Well, I read something recently. So do you follow Lane Norton, Bio
Oh,
Lane?
oh yeah,
Yeah, I feel like
yeah,
everyone does, right?
yep.
He's great, right? He really like dissects studies and stuff, and he talks about he did one on alcohol. And he was like, yeah, so like everyone knows at this point in the health industry that alcohol definitely makes a significant difference in like plummeting your testosterone, and like affecting your deep sleep, your REM sleep, right? Um,
Yep.
Personally, I've always been confused about that because, like I say, I drink pretty often. I don't get like blackout hammered drunk, but like it's pretty regular. Um, and like I feel like I have high testosterone. I feel like, I mean, dude, like a lot of nights, like I'm having dreams when I'm sleeping after like drinking a few beers, So I'm
Mhm.
like, what? But he dissected like the studies that have said that. And he said, first of all, actually, for most people, the like 1 to 4 drinks is actually like it does a pretty minimal damage. It's pretty minimal. But he said like the effects of testosterone. Um, well, he actually said that in some cases, there's actually an acute spike in testosterone after like a certain amount of drinks. But if you're drinking like 5 to 10 drinks in one sitting, that's when that gets affected.
Yeah.
Um, but again, it's like, what is your tolerance levels and stuff like that? Why are dudes in Ireland like getting drunk every night and like they can build muscle and do just fine? You know what I mean? Like it's wild. So I've been trying to navigate my own relationship with alcohol, just learning more and more. It's like this shit's not good. I spent like all of my 20s like
Yeah.
establishing this habit here, and like I know I'm not an alcoholic, but I'm like, damn, dude, like I can't escape it, you know.
Well, there's going to be a difference between someone like yourself or me, where we eat a very nutritious diet because alcohol also depletes our body of vitamins and minerals, like a lot of B vitamins, vitamin C, and a bunch of minerals. I forget them off the top of my head. Every time you drink, it causes your body to deplete them. Well,
Hmm.
for us, we're getting those because we're eating like red meat and
Right.
good quality proteins and fruits and veggies. But for the average American, they're just getting more and more depleted because they're going to eat that. And then they have their bullshit breakfast or skip breakfast completely. And it's just coffee. Then they go out for lunch for some processed thing. And then dinner's like, here's my refined pasta. And their only vegetables like tomato sauce.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah. So your overall lifestyle is to be considered there. Um, but it's also interesting too. Like, I know you said that like you like a good cocktail, and I used to like a good cocktail too. Um, I used to like a good vodka or a good whiskey, but I might have one on occasion. But dude, you know what really my experience was? Like I said, last summer, dude, that was a hard time for me mentally. Just like a
Mhm.
lot going on. I already explained that, and I was literally having panic attacks. Um, and like I would wake up some days with like my mental state was very dark. You know what I mean? Like
Yep.
and like every mistake you've ever made, like your brain just like dwells on it, and like I'm
Oh,
like,
yeah.
what's going on with me? And you know what? Actually, once I started eliminating certain things, it was actually like liquor was playing a role in that, right?
Okay.
So
Yep.
yeah, I remember like at least for me, and honestly, like I'm really the only case that I've heard of that with that. But like I remember we went to the beach for like 10 days with my fiance's parents, right? And we were always drinking vodka the whole time,
Mhm.
right? Like we're not getting like, like we're not getting shitty, right? But like, um, just always like sipping on vodka the whole time, 10 days in a row. And then eventually, like my mind started like, I started having like OCD symptoms. I had to get a therapist. It was really weird, man. It
Hmm.
was not only the stress of everything that I was telling you about, but also like what I've come to find is that like I don't feel that way if I drink wine or beer,
Okay.
right? And
Yeah.
I can have, I can drink a little bit of whiskey like on an occasion or something. Um, but even like, 2 months ago, me and my fiance went to Puerto Rico. Of course, you got to try the Puerto Rican rum,
Yep.
right? So first 3 days there, drinking Puerto Rican rum. Oh, by the way, we missed our flight, so we got like stuck at the airport all day on Monday. And I'm like, well, might as well get a buzzed, So I'm drinking whiskey like at the airport bar. Um, but dude, on that like third or fourth day of the vacation, my mind started like doing that again. Like
I'm
I'll get
down
really
that.
stuck in my head. I'll get like real like like any like it's like all the mistakes you've ever made.
Every
Your mind starts
mistake
like
pops up.
yeah, it's like your mind starts hyper fixating on that. I think like liquor literally. I had someone explain to me who's like a holistic nutritionist. Uh, Apparently liquor can like basically sanitize the bacteria in your gut,
I
which
have heard that. Yes.
yeah, which like that good bacteria is directly correlated with your mood and your mental health,
100%.
right?
Yep.
Yeah. And you're basically drinking something that like I mean dude, if you had an opened wound and you didn't have like a bottle of vodka will
Yeah.
sanitize it, you know what I mean? So imagine that going into your stomach lining. So that's something I've kind of learned with liquor.
I do. Oh, wine is obviously going to be the best, and I'm okay with cider. Beer does that to me, and it just tears my stomach up. So
Hmm.
I love craft beer. I don't really drink it anymore because I am absolutely miserable after I get bloating. My whole GI just gets messed up, and then my mood's all messed up for a couple days. Like even if it's just like 3 beers, like not like a crazy night. Like I had like 3 beers, like socializing with people. I am messed up for a few days afterwards.
Wow,
Um,
yeah. I know a few
so
people like that too.
yeah, it sucks because hot summer, like we're going into summer here, like you're outside right
Yeah.
now and it's super nice here. I'm like, you know what I could go for? But I've switched to ciders now. Like if I can get like a good low alcohol, and as I've gotten older, I've also searched like for like ciders or wine, like what's the lowest alcohol I can get?
Oh
Like,
wow.
like I like a good like for beer, like 3% of beer. Like I also like an 11%, but like for occasional drinking, I'll drink like a 3%, or if I can find that with cider, like 4%. Like I'm fine with that. I'm drinking
Yeah.
it because I enjoy it. I'm not like trying not to chase that buzz anymore.
Right. Yeah. That's a good idea. I try to stay away from like the 9% and whatnot. Um, unless I just want to keep it to like just to have a few drinks,
Right.
right? And like I'm not trying to like drink a bunch, then that might be a higher alcohol percentage. But like, dude, my fiance, um, she'll have like one beer at the end of the day, but like it'll be like 9%. So like that's what's in our refrigerator. And I'm like, girl, like I can't, like this is not good influence on me. But yeah, man, alcohol is it's a very interesting one. And also like I learned a lot too about the history of humanity with alcohol. And I actually learned a few things recently that most people don't know, right? So obviously, we grew up, we evolved as human, like literally since the dawn of human civilization, making alcohol, making beer
Yes.
and wine, right? Um, a lot of people use that to justify it because they're like, yeah, this is something we've always done, which is true, right? And even then, like I think like the what we see in scientific studies of what it does negatively to the body, I really do believe that that's a little blown out of proportion because human beings have been drinking alcohol for ages, right? However, the thing is that that beer back then was like 2%.
Exactly. I was waiting
Yeah,
for you to bring that up.
yeah, exactly. And liquor, that really wasn't a thing until what, like 200 years ago?
It's pretty recent. Yeah. I forget
Pretty recent.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, in a span of like human civil, like when we were humans for like what 80,000 years, right? Like we basically started drinking liquor yesterday, and like that stuff like freaking engine fuel. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
so that's where a lot of people get it twisted. They're like, oh yeah, we've always drinking alcohol as humans. Like no, we always drinking 6% alcohol.
Yeah.
I mean,
6% was
excuse
the
me, two
highest.
two. Yeah, yeah. Well, 2% is really what I meant to say.
Yeah.
But like, and we weren't drinking liquor. So these people who are like drinking a lot of liquor, it's like, dude, that can't be good.
Yeah. Um, I was hoping you were gonna go down that route. I got like I have like a mini bar over here. Like I have books on like the history of like vermouth and the history of gin and all that stuff like back over here. And that was a big thing was like, just so you know, like your fortified wines and stuff that are like now 18, 19%, and it was like 6% back in the day. It
Yeah,
was the beer was like you said, 2 or 3%. Like if you make kombucha at home, it's like 1.5%. That was
yeah,
the alcohol we were drinking.
yeah,
And a lot of times it was used during like times of scarcity to get calories in because it would be preserved, like kind of preserved calories. So you
uh-huh,
see this with like some of the Nordic countries where they would make this alcohol in the summer, and then in the wintertime, they could have this high calorie thing that kept you warm because we know alcohol does that, but
of
it would
course.
give you calories when times were scarce. Now we just drink a 40% whiskey or 50% whiskey when it's like a Wednesday afternoon. Like, cool, let's have that. Like,
Yeah. Oh yeah, man, for sure. But look, I mean, like for anyone listening, like I don't judge, right? Because obviously, like, I mean, like both of us are saying, we drink too. But like
yeah,
as the years have gone by recently, I've become more and more aware that like this stuff's not good for you. And one day, like I want to be able to be like, hey, I might have like a drink on a special occasion. I'm working my way towards that. But damn,
every,
everywhere we go is like there's alcohol being thrown in your face.
yep, yep.
But yeah,
All right. So let's kind of wrap up. I think we're over the hour mark now. So I'm sure you have things you have to get done. So
I'm
you
in no rush.
have, okay.
Yeah.
Was there anything else you wanted to go over real quick before we wrap things up?
Well, I guess talking about my scholarship
Yeah,
program.
let's do that.
Yeah.
What is
So
that?
yeah, so that's the scholarship program. So basically, what I do for those who are not sure, like I specialize in holistic strength training, specifically for people who might be dealing with shoulder and spine issues, right? And I use these ancient Eastern strength training methods, such as clubs, maces, as well as kettlebells, to help people get back to being getting rid of chronic pain,
Mhm.
and thriving, getting strong and awesome, right? So it's typically a 16-week program where me and my team are going to be helping you with um, the whole program, how to move. We're going to be tracking your nutrition as well, holding you accountable with weekly accountability check-ins and whatnot. Um, and yeah, and now what I'm doing is for anyone who is interested, you can apply in the link in my Instagram bio um, for a free scholarship. Okay,
Awesome.
I'm going to select one, maybe two people for a free scholarship of 16 weeks of my strength coaching. But I'm also going to do a select amount of people for a partial scholarship.
Nice.
Right. This is a
Nice.
great opportunity because I'm telling you right now, I'm not going to give details of like pricing and whatnot, but it is a great deal. So if you're someone who has been dealing with chronic pain and also just wants to put on muscle and get strong and get lean and do it in like holistic methods and that work well for your lifestyle, now's the time to do it. And the promotion ends at the end of March.
End of March. So this is going to come out. Let's see. This is coming out. So there'll be 11 days. This is going to come out on March 20th. So
Mm-hmm.
you guys have 11 days to fill this out. So Adam, I'll put that link in the show notes if you want to send that over to me.
Yeah.
So if you're listening to this, you want to fill out the scholarship, which basically sounds kind of like almost like a giveaway. Click the link down in the show notes or go visit his social media handle. So it's at Adam period the shoulder coach, correct, on IG.
Yep.
Awesome. And are you on any other platforms?
I mean, I have a YouTube and
But
technically a TikTok and a Facebook, but like I like never use those things.
okay,
It's
so
more so just I just
IG.
repurpose my content on it. Yeah.
Okay, IG is your main one. Cool. So
Oh yeah.
at Adam period the shoulder coach on Instagram, or you can just go right down to the show notes, click the button for his scholarship, and don't wait. As a coach, Adam's going to agree with me here. We know
Yeah.
if you wait, you're not going to do it. So go do it
Exactly.
right now if you're interested. Probably takes them what, less than 5 minutes, or is
Oh,
it like 2 minutes?
it will literally take you one or 2 minutes. Like
1 to 2 minutes to fill out. So if you're
yeah, it's
interested,
just an
working with them.
application, a few important questions, bada bing, bada boom, get it done. I'm gonna review it. Okay.
Nice, awesome. All right. Thank you for coming on, Adam. It's awesome having you. We'll probably have to do a part 2 to this in the future.
Totally. I'll be down.
Thanks for listening to today's episode with Adam Hicks. Make sure to go check out the show notes if you're interested in applying for his scholarship. Also, while you're at it, make sure to leave a 5 stars for the episode or the show and leave a review. The review helps with trying to create new episodes, new topics, etc. See what you guys love, because I am doing this for you, the listener. I'm not doing this for myself, even though I get to interview a few cool people. And the 5-star review helps with getting the channel out there and having other people find it. So make sure to go and do that. It'll take you literally like 3 seconds to do that.